Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Kimberly Rei, and I'm here with Jodi Jensen, author of the just launching today book, Children of RaShell. So she's going to tell us all about it. Jodi.
Hi, I'm Jodi Jensen, as she said. I don't know where to start. Like I've written so many things, but this one is like my newest um, experiment, I guess. I've never written a sci-fi story before, just short stories, but not anything that was substantial in length. So this is kind of an exciting story and an exciting day for me. My first foray into sci-fi and kind of a dystopian end of the world type of a story too. A little bit of futuristic elements. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
So at this point, for authors, it's almost a cliche question, but readers always want to know, specific to this story, where did the ideas come from?
Well, this story actually set out to be something very different than where it ended up. I'm a discovery writer. A lot of people call that being a pantser. I prefer discovery writer because I discover the story as I write it. So, a couple of years ago, there was an open call for submissions for stories set underground. And I had this just flash of an image in my mind of my one of my main characters who was in an underground tunnel and heard children laughing. And that was something that he shouldn't be hearing in that place in that moment. And that really kind of stuck with me. So I wrote the first chapter and then it kind of fizzled. I didn't know where to go with it because what I saw wasn't this story that unfolded that had to do with being underground. I was not seeing it. So I just set it aside and worked on other things and did other things. And then a while later, maybe a year after that, there was another submission call open for like cyberpunk, biopunk, diesel punk, those kind of stories. And I'd had this conversation with my son prior to the second call being open, where we were talking a little bit about the population and pollution and what that can mean, and how even now there's like fewer babies being born. A lot of that is people choosing not to have kids until later. And but there's a lot more people that seem to be experiencing fertility problems. Anyway, we'd had this whole conversation about um, these things, and when I saw that call open, it kind of and my mind immediately went back to that chapter I had written. And I had this thought that I can do something with that. Like all of a sudden, this story kind of blossomed in my mind. So I opened the document, I started writing, and before I knew it, there was a story born about clones, which I did not set out to do. It was just where the story went. So that's it, it's a long way to say that it came from several different places, but yeah.
And your son was enough of an inspiration that you actually did a dedication to him in this, didn't you?
I did. I dedicated the story to him, and I didn't tell him until I did the dedication that I had a surprise for him, and I took a picture of the dedication and I sent it to him. And I said, he wasn't even aware at the time that that conversation had sparked the idea for this book. And so that was really kind of a fun surprise. He was pretty excited by that and happy, and yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Maybe more conversations will inspire more sci-fi in you.
You never know. Ideas come from everywhere, that's for sure. And I
So
don't know, I turned out to really like this genre as far as the way this story went anyway. It was something I really enjoyed doing.
good. I mean, for your debut in this genre, it's really, really good.
Thank you.
Um, because this is new to you, this field, you come from romance writing, right?
I do. I do. I
Right.
was when I was a baby writer, that's what I wrote was romance novels. My first book published that wasn't a short story but was like a novel was a romance novel, a time travel romance. So I still always have to have that little aspect of something, like paranormal or, whatever in there. But yeah, time travel romance was my first published books. And so this is pretty far from that. There's no romance in this at all.
Oh, it's a little romantic. It's possible. Um, being that you dove into a fairly hardcore genre, what was your biggest challenge with this piece?
Um, Hands down, it was the research because obviously I'm not a geneticist. I don't know anything about cloning. I don't know anything about even how to, look at samples of something in a microscope. I mean, high school was 100 years ago, right? Like that's what it feels like. And so anytime I came across anything in the story where I needed to know how to do certain things or if certain things were even plausible, let alone, maybe even already happening to a degree, I would have to stop and research. And so, that sometimes was a really big challenge because in my story there's things that happen that as far as I know are not yet happening in the world. And so I had to make it seem plausible, like it could happen and be realistic based off of the technology that we do have. Could it go in that direction, And I've always thought like the best way to make something that's not believable or real to be more believable is to get all the other little details right. So I really made a conscious effort to do that as much as possible. So that was a big challenge because there were a lot of things I didn't know. So,
Now, I know that when I'm doing research, I tend to sometimes zoom off. We've got notes open, right? Because we're taking notes
yeah,
on what we're researching, and then there's more notes about what we're learning.
right.
Did you find yourself in some new territory? Did you find yourself learning some things that you hadn't expected to come across?
I did actually. I mean, without giving anything away in the book, one of the things that I learned was specific to reproduction, as far as cloning like cells and things, and I just found that to be like so interesting and so incredible that we have technology that is possible to do certain things. And I don't know, like it was kind of a rabbit hole because then you start looking at the different things that can be cloned and the things that have been and the longevity of that and like how that plays out over the course short term versus long term. And it was, I don't know. I mean, I remember at one time I had so many tabs open that when I looked at the top of my browser, all you could just see, you could only see the first letter on every tab because there were so many. And I was like, I might have a problem here. But I would just jot down notes from place to place about things that were relevant and like at one point, for example, I needed to know the difference between dirt and actual healthy soil. And it's not even something that you think about from day to day, and I mean, I grow a garden every year. I have, a lawn, I have dirt in my yard by where the swing set is. So it's like, but you don't consciously think about what's the difference between dirt and soil, like healthy soil that you can grow things in. But that was something I had to learn about so that I could write one scene, you know? And so, yeah, research was a challenge for this, but it was fun and I enjoyed it. And I love to learn new things. So that was a bonus.
That's good. That's good. That helps. Um, you've got a little bit of controversy in these pages. What do you think is going to yank on some strings? And do you think you're going to get people thinking, talking,
I
arguing?
mean, I hope not arguing. I hope talking. I hope thinking. The thing is, I didn't set out to write anything controversial. I wanted to write a story about, humans in extraordinary circumstances that needed to survive because I like those kind of stories. Those kind of stories speak to me just as a person and but also as a writer, as a storyteller. I love stories of survival. So I really, really wanted to tell a story like that. And it turned out to have some things in it that were controversial. And I guess my biggest hope is that I hope people can realize that, humanity is capable of so many great things, but it takes everybody to do their part in their little corner of the world. And maybe everybody collectively doing that makes the world in general a better place. And people should stand up for what's right, even when the the other way might seem easier or it might seem like a solution that hadn't been thought of. Maybe there's alternative ways to do things. Maybe there's ways that people can work together to find better solutions, I guess. And I just really wanted to, I don't know, I hope those are the things people talk about. I hope those are the things that make people think.
It's a very, very good goal. You kind of left us hanging at the end in a couple of ways. Do you have plans for a sequel?
I do. And it's funny because I did not think when I wrote it, I didn't see it as a cliffhanger ending. I think because I knew there was going to be more to the story, obviously. There needs to be. I was quite surprised when enough readers told me, wait. Um, but there are going to be three. So I started the next one, and that's how I kind of knew. So in my mind, this first installment was done, and I felt like it was a good place to stop and then lead into another story. And I do have some of the new one written, so it's in the works and it's coming soon. But at least I hope it will be coming soon. I shouldn't say that, but I hope it will be. But yeah, I don't know, I didn't see it as a cliffhanger myself. I saw certain things were resolved, and I knew going into the next story, I knew where it started, and so I just didn't see it that way. So I apologize for the cliffhanger. I know a lot of people don't love cliffhanger endings, but it is gonna have more to the story.
I think we can forgive cliffhanger endings when we know more is coming.
Yeah,
It's yeah, more than once my wife has said you can't leave it there. And I'm like, well,
right.
that's where it's left. Um,
Right.
and then
Right.
usually get nagged into finishing it. Who's your favorite character in this book?
Um, my favorite character is actually Arya in this story. I love her as a character. She's young, but she's not as young as you would think she is. And she's just been in a position where she has to be more grown up. She has to be wise. She has to be determined and strong-willed, and she is all of those things. And she's really cute too, and she's really, I don't know, just her personality reminds me a little bit of my granddaughter, which is probably why she's one of my favorites, or is my favorite character, because she reminds me of my granddaughter. Just that strong-willed determination, digs in her heels, but then is also sweet and still kind of innocent considering the circumstances that she's in. And I just, something about her really spoke to me. And I love to see stories where you have these strong-willed characters, and it seems like on the surface like it would be so easy for them to solve the problems or survive things because they're so strong, but then to see them still have to struggle and reach for things that you're not expecting because the problem is so big, and to challenge them. And I guess I like those kinds of stories and characters. So
So we'll be seeing more of her.
you will. Yes.
Good, good, because I like her
Yes.
a lot too. She's a good character, good, solid
Yes.
character.
Yeah, she was fun.
Yeah.
And I really loved the way she interacted with her sisters as well.
Hmm.
She was a little bit motherly, but she was also really just cute and fun, and at times she would seem so grown up to me in my mind as I wrote her, and it was fun to see her still get to be a kid too,
Yeah,
occasionally. This
yeah,
world they
that does
live
come
in is
through.
not a real friendly place for a kid to be able to be a kid. So it was fun to get to have a few scenes in there where she could do that, you know.
Yeah. So you started out in romance.
I did.
You delved into sci-fi. Any other genres you play with?
There are quite a few. This bookshelf behind me are all books that I have stories in. So I've done a lot of like horror type stories, paranormal stories. I've done a couple of tries with fantasy. I'm not terrible at it, but it's definitely the one it would be the biggest challenge for me to write because it's pretty far outside of what I normally write. But it was fun. I don't know. I've really kind of been liking the darker stories though, because as a new writer, when I was a baby writer, it was all about the romance. Like that was what I knew how to write. That was what I was reading a lot of when I was younger, and that was what felt natural to write, those kinds of stories. And then um, when Black Hair Press opened their doors and had a call out, I decided to try my hand at writing a story and got together with a friend, and we both submitted a story and got accepted. And it made me realize, hey, I can do more than just romance. So from there, I just kind of went nuts. Anything that popped up that sounded interesting, I'm like, I'm gonna try it. And I just tried a lot of different things. And I have
One of
found
those
I really like the dark stories. They're fun. They're fun to
one of
write.
those things that you tried was a rather beefy project where you led how many authors in one thing?
There was 12. There was 13 altogether, counting myself. But yeah, we did, and you and I worked on that together. 13 Drops of Blood, which was
Yep.
a really fun story. Just about a little accident, love gone wrong stories. Ghosts seeking vengeance for becoming the ghost that they were. And yeah, I worked with some really awesome authors, and that's a book I'm actually really quite proud of. And
Oh,
that
you
was
should
that
be.
was
That was
fun.
so much fun.
It was. I know. I always think I want to do another one of those types of collaborative
Please.
things because they're so much fun to do.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
hit me up. Um,
for sure.
some authors are a little shy and a little they like to hide. Some are a little more open. If people want to reach out to you about Children of Rochelle, about 13 Drops of Blood, about your romance, are you open to that? And if so, how can they find you?
Absolutely. I actually love to talk to other writers. One of the things about me, I had some help along the way, some people who mentored me, taught me things, worked with me, other authors, and then wonderful publishers like Black Hair Press who have been so amazing to their authors. So I love to help other authors in return. So I'm happy for readers and other writers to reach out. You can find me on Twitter, at Writes Jodi is my handle there. You can find me on Facebook if you just look up Jodi Jensen. You can find me on the new app Threads, which is a lot like Twitter. It's just another social media platform. I'm on TikTok. I have a blog, jodijensenwrites.com. Um, and, pretty much reach out to me, talk to me, ask me questions. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
That's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
So outside of this sequel that we're all going to be pining for very soon, what else are you working on?
My newest novel that I'm working on, I'm almost done. I'm 85,000 words in, so I think I've got maybe 10 to 15,000 more words to go to wrap it up, is another dark end of the world story. This one has an unlikely heroine who I absolutely adore. I adore this character. She is my hands down favorite I think I've ever written. Um, and that idea was born. I was at work one day and I just had this idea pop into my mind about a text message that somebody gets, and it doesn't get answered because the world is ending. And I wrote it down. It's like two sentences on a sticky note. And this story was born from that. So my heroine is a plus size woman who is a lunch lady, and she's doesn't see herself as brave. She doesn't see herself as any particular, strong person. She's just a regular person who wants to find and save one person. She's not trying to save the world. She just wants to save one person. And that idea really spoke to me. And to see her, trying to survive and navigate this new dark world that is her reality has been amazing and so much fun. Like I absolutely adore this character and this story.
I have to say, I really appreciate how you seem to relentlessly be bringing hope to the apocalypse.
It's true. It's true. And for somebody who's like this, little happy romance writer, I really do like dark stories. Some people, everybody has their comfort movies. And for some people, that's Hallmark movies or that's chick flicks or that's, whatever. For mine, it's end of the world stories. You give me an end of the world movie and I'm there. I'm all about it. I don't like favorite TV shows are things like The Walking Dead. I absolutely love that. The characters. I like characters that are strong and sensitive and survive. I like to see people survive and not just survive, but but thrive and conquer and rise above. And yeah, that's the kind of stories I want to tell.
So between that and between your advocacy for and mentorship for new authors, any last final tips for somebody just delving into all this?
I would say don't ever, 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 ever give up. And don't let people tell you what you can and can't do in writing, because here's the thing, and I think Stephen King said this, and I agree. You do have to know what the rules are so you can break them. And sometimes you do have to break the rules. And sometimes that means, breaking genre rules. Like there's certain rules in different genres. And sometimes when you break those rules, your result is something really amazing. But I think you do have to know the rules first, and I also think you should never give up because, I started writing. I wrote my very first story when I was 9. So, child. I wrote some in high school. I wrote my first novel when I was in my early 20s. I did not get my first publishing contract until I was 49. So, you should never give up. I am the poster child for never give up because that's a long time. That's a long time. And now, I have over 100 short stories published. I have 3 novels now and more things I'm working on. And I just feel like enjoy the journey while you're on it, because I look back now and I think I didn't appreciate the time, the freedom I had in those early days to write really crappy. Like now you feel like, yeah, at this point I'm like, I have to be good at this. And I'm a little harder on myself. You know what I mean? So I wish I could say, just enjoy that, the freedom you have to write that crappy first draft, and don't give up, and break rules if you need to, but make sure you know too what the rules are, and enjoy. Writing should be fun. It should.
I think one of my favorite sayings is that you can't edit a blank page.
Right. And it's true.
So just get it written,
Yep, it's true.
fix it later.
It's true. And honestly, I'm kind of bad about that because I've never had to do like major revisions, and because I'm also an editor, I'm really hard on myself. I want that first draft to be as good as I can get it. So I'm not a fast writer. Some people can sit down and just hash out a couple thousand words in half an hour. I can't do that because I'm a careful writer. I'm more careful about the way that I write and what I'm writing. And if I see an echo or I see a misspelled word, I have to fix it. I can't just leave it. I can't do it, you know. But then I think but everybody's process is their own, and you just have to work the way works for you. That's what you have to do. But you're
A
right,
good
you
friend of
can't
mine,
edit blank pages. So
a good friend of mine says, bang it out now, tart it up later.
yeah, yeah. And I will say for a lot of people, that is probably the very best way to write, is to just get the story out. I think the majority of people, and even for people that are like me, that are more like I'm trying to be a perfectionist, I still have to have an editor. Like you were my editor, and you did a great job. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you. You're
Yeah.
easy to edit for you because you do write very cleanly. You do present things very tight.
Well, thank you. That's
So
that's pretty incredible with this story, because this story I wrote in about 3 months, which is fast for me. But once I realized I was going to write for this call that was open, there was a deadline. So there's nothing that gets you writing faster than a deadline. I'll say that.
yeah, that's
So,
true.
so
That's true.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was a good thing for me because it helped me to get this story done and down and on paper, and so to a degree, I was a little less of a perfectionist than maybe I normally am.
Yeah, it's probably good for you though.
It is kind of freeing. It is kind of freeing to just write and edit later as much as someone like me can. But I'm grateful for the way that I write. I'm glad that I can write the way that I do because it's what works for me. So,
So, Children of RaShell,
Children
ebook,
of RaShell.
paperback, hardcover, which is gorgeous,
It is.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, anything else in the works?
There's a rumor that maybe it'll be available in audiobook soon. I'm hoping that's the case. I know it's talked about, so I'm crossing my fingers. It will be my first audiobook if that happens. So that will
Fabulous.
be
It's going to lend
exciting.
itself well to audio. Where can people find it?
You can find this book on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, Smashwords, Kobo, all kinds of places, everywhere online.
All the
And
usual
then
suspects.
there are links on my social media sites and at blackhairpress.com, I believe.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for joining us.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
And
We'll
until
see you with the next one.
yep. Thanks.